So where we last left off, the main character and the third prince and several people were captured by the Emini, and they were being dragged off to a new location. They weren't even allowed to practically rest or eat. They literally were soiling themselves on the travel. If someone passed away, the Emini would just pick up the body and toss it to the wolves. Like, it was a horrifying, terrible situation to be in. The third prince and the main character come up with a plan to escape. Now, the third prince and the rest of the group was able to escape, but the main character was not able to. During their escape, the main character was unable to stay on the horse with the third prince and practically had fallen off and was recaptured by the Emini. There, he is dragged to a camp where he meets up with his oldest friend and the emperor and the former emperor, which, when the main character's seeing how they're basically bowing and kowtowing to the Emini, it infuriates him, it pisses him off. Like, he makes a full-on scene and is practically beaten to death, almost. Like, literally, they torture the living daylights out of him because he refuses to bow and kowtow to them. Now, his main friend tries pleading for his life several times to keep the main character alive, but the main character is just not having it. He just does not want to bow and kowtow to these people after what they did to their kingdom, and he's very frustrated and upset with the former emperor and the emperor because these dudes literally ran away when their kingdom needed them and still ended up captured, and now kowtowing and bowing to the enemy. Once the Emini thinks the main character is dead, they just throw his body away. But surprisingly, the male lead is there. The male lead has been searching for the main character, and once he finds the main character and he reveals his actual identity to the Emini, which is that the male lead's actually a third prince of another tribes of people, the male lead requests the main character because the main character was actually his slave, and he takes the main character underneath him. Now, funny thing is, the leader of this Emini camp does not recognize the main character when the main character starts walking around with the male lead in the camp. I am not kidding. This dude does not recognize the main character, even though the main character literally made a scene and he had the main character publicly tortured, yet somehow he does not recognize the main character at all when the main character is just traveling around with the male lead in the camp. Since the male lead had claimed the main character as his slave, the main character has to play the role as his slave, which means he gets physically assaulted by the male lead once. Only once. But it's obviously very upsetting for both of them, for the male lead to have to do this. And it was upsetting for me to read. Like, I was upset. So several women have been captured and enslaved by this Emini group camp. They basically are treating these women as playthings and entertainment. These women who had high positions are now being humiliated by these men and being forced to do things they do not want to do. And the main character literally has to see this and watch this, and it upsets and disgusts him that this is being done to the women of his country. Like, it is very frustrating and very upsetting for him. The women include the main character and male leads into their plans to try assassinating the leader of this camp. And basically, it's to try to spark a need for revenge and hatred in the men who have been captured. The men are being made to work while the women are basically humiliated, and this is to spark hatred and revenge into the men. So even if the woman who attempts the assassination dies because she knows she's going to die, it'll at least spark the men to fight, to try to leave, to escape and go. Because honestly, the men are being kept there so the women will be kept as playthings, and the women are being kept to keep the men in line. So basically, they're both being used to keep each other in line. And if one group tries leaving, the other group will be killed. But the women, they're having had enough of it. They're standing up. They want to fight, and they want their men to leave and come back and get revenge for them, even if they all will die for it. The main friend of the main characters, his wife, she outright states this to the main character male lead, that she is willing to die and be left there so her husband can escape and come back and get revenge for her. The men, they don't want to leave their wives. Even if they have to come back and get revenge for their wives or ransom money for their wives, they do not want to do this. They do not want to abandon their wives. The main character's main friend, which the main character's whole entire group of friends are here, but like his main friend, he does not want to leave his wife. But sadly, they have no choice to leave his wife. His wife is literally the only woman who is practically left. The other men's wives are able to escape, and one of the women who were captured was a princess, the second princess. She was captured too, and they were able to free her. So they were all able to escape with the help of the main character and male lead and the actions that the women had done beforehand. The male lead has to leave them for a bit. He has to lure away a group of enemies so the main character and the group can get to safety. And while they had left the male lead, they had first bowed to him and thanked him for all he has done for them, and then they left him. But once they were gone from him, they do end up meeting up with the third prince again and the soldiers the third prince had found. So now they're all one big group of people. After some traveling, they do come across the male lead once more, and the male lead is kind of injured from his fight. They cure him and they continue on their path, and then they meet up with that general the main character had a friendship with that was led to be dead, but he was actually not dead. He was just unconscious, his stuff taken from him and given into the enemy. So that is why it was led to believe he was dead, but he wasn't actually dead. He was able to return back to the capital, reveal his true identity, that he was still alive, and continue being a general and fighting to reclaim their kingdom and protect his people. Traveling to the main character's land, they have to pass the main character's father's land, and it has been practically torched. Everything his mother had worked for before she had died has been practically destroyed and torched, which obviously upsets him, but he's also terrified that his father, stepmother, and brother have died, but he does not find their bodies, so he's pretty sure they were able to escape before the enemy arrived. Once they arrive to his land, his uncle had escaped and ran off, but several of his servants and landowners had stayed. Now, his uncle does return once his uncle learns that the main character is alive and has returned back to serve the main character and work with the main character. And this is also when the main character finds out that his father, stepmother, and brother are living somewhere in the city near his home. So he basically sooner or later brings them into his home to stay with him, which, gains him a good reputation with the people. They also use his land to basically push away the enemy. They use the bridges and the rocks up on the cliffs to basically hit the enemy with it and send the enemy away. So thanks to all the work the main character had done prior in the series has come to basically benefit them in the war. Once that is settled, the third prince and the group of people with them go off back to the capital while the main character stays back on his land with the male lead.